What is up, everybody? It is me, Mike Vanderpool, and I'm here today on the Make It Happen podcast with a very special guest, one I've had to hunt down and drag onto the podcast. A good friend of mine who I've known for a long time, doing some awesome stuff here in Toledo, Northwest Ohio. LeSean Shaw, Director of Empowered AI, is that what it is?
Vice President of Empowered AI, yeah.
Oh my goodness, I should have dressed up. I'm sorry. What you did?
We good. It's cold outside, you know.
Vice President of Empowered AI. Awesome. And you started out, man, your history, just from what I know a little bit, you've been around, if I can say that.
Yeah.
Way. Is that fair?
Yeah, definitely.
So today we'll talk about Empowered AI. We'll talk about the African American Chamber of Commerce, which you are restarting, and then anything fair game, man, because as somebody who I have known for a long time, who I have seen in a lot of different spaces, I respect what you're doing, man. And the more I know, I can help tell people your story, and I think the more people know about what you're doing, the more support we can get for that stuff.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Definitely. Looking forward to it too, man.
So thank you for coming out.
Of course. It's a long time coming, but we're finally here, man. We finally made it.
Yeah. So where'd we start, right? You and I met when, we'll say the name.
Yeah.
Bitwise came here. Bitwise was a company. You were actually a student in my class, and your mother was in that class. That's phenomenal. That's all right.
Yep. Yeah. I actually had a few people start with me, you know, because when I heard about Bitwise, and you know, I don't shy away from saying the name, because, you know, without Bitwise, I wouldn't have met you. Without Bitwise, there was a lot of opportunities that I would have, you know, likely not been able to, you know, participate in, you know. So, but yeah, so my mom was taking the class with me. One of my best friends was taking the class with me as well too. And, you know, that's when I got an opportunity to meet you. And that was in the second round of classes that I actually took through Bitwise. So yeah, it was really cool.
Was I a good teacher?
You were a good teacher. You were a little bit short, you know, but
what do you mean?
Because I didn't get to spend that much time with you. I feel like the time we spent together was kind of short, but probably because like by that time I kind of realized I wasn't the best at coding. Yeah, you know, so yeah, it was cool.
Well, and it's, you know, it's funny because I come from that background where everybody can learn to code, and I'm like, okay, I believe that's true. That doesn't mean everybody should be a coder based on who they are and what they're into.
Yeah.
And also not everybody can learn to code in that type of 3 hours a night when you may be doing other things, and like your brain's fried typically if you got a 9 to 5 coming to class like that. And then you're like, what's this dude trying to make me do?
Yeah. It was an interesting time, you know, but I did learn to code. I did learn to make websites, you know, so it was a way to pick up another skill.
And you stuck with Bitwise, though, after you graduated from that as part of their apprenticeship model. And I think that's where our relationship continued, right?
Definitely. So I stuck with them. I actually ended up having quite a few meetings while I was taking classes with people that were in operations. You know, so one of the things that they did really, really well was just making sure that they had placement for individuals. And with the placement, I was actually able to meet like their placement specialists. That led to me meeting the vice president of operations locally. And then I eventually met the owner as well too, Irma. You know, so during those conversations that brought me on as the director of operations, and then that eventually led to my time as the vice president of operations here in Toledo too.
All right. So we're going to go forward at some point.
Yeah, definitely.
But I kind of want to go back, dude. How'd you get to that point, LeSean? What were you into?
So before I got into Bitwise, I actually was in healthcare. So I was a practice manager for the University of Toledo Physicians Group. I did that for maybe it was less than a year. That was my last stint in healthcare. Previous to that, I was also working for ProMedica as a office manager over at Flower Hospital. Before that, I was the director of training and technology for ProMedica as well too. And before that, it was customer service, which I did for quite some time. So when I had reached that stint with University of Toledo Physicians Healthcare Group, I really at that point realized I was done with healthcare. It was at that time with COVID had ended and everything like that. You know, I was really done, and I just wanted to find something different. And I looked towards Bitwise and what they were doing with technology and the ecosystem in Fresno, California, and I saw if they could do something like that here locally. And with them redoing the Jefferson Center as well too at that time, that was something that I saw as a really big deal. So I just wanted to be a part of what they were bringing to the city.
Very cool. All right. We'll stay back in the past a little bit.
Yeah.
What were you like as a kid, man?
Super rambunctious, super nerdy. Um, I had thick glasses. I either looked like the black kid on Barney. Remember that black kid? Oh, there was a black kid on Barney. Google him. I was.
You're a little bit younger than me, man.
Yeah.
I wasn't the Barney kid.
No, really? Oh man. Okay, so yeah. Or Steve Urkel. Yeah, it was good going Urkel. Yeah, it was more like Steve Urkel, man. I had a little bit more swag to me. I was a funny guy. Always wanted to make jokes and everything like that, but always just kind of like tinkering. Wanted to break things down and see what made them work.
So I was the type of kid I would take something apart, but I could never get it put back together.
Yeah, I was like that too. My brother could put stuff back together. So when I took it apart, he could put it back together. So that was really cool. So shout out to my brother Evan.
So you're in the tech space now. We'll get into that, but like, do you remember like what was your tech journey like? And as an example, like for me, yeah, I went to a grade school. We had Apple IIe computers, right? Oregon Trail, Logo, some other games. My mom had a job where she was able to bring home a computer. I got a computer. That was kind of like my introductions. How were you introduced?
Yeah, so I didn't really have a traditional tech journey. My tech journey was more of like playing video games all the time. You know what I mean? Like, that
I have no idea what that's like.
Yeah, of course you don't, right? Yeah, but I spent a lot of time playing video games. I love movies, so just understanding like the special effects behind movies, things of that sort. I always grew up thinking I was going to either write, direct, or edit movies, so that was something as well too. But I didn't have like a huge technical background. Like I never went to school for anything that was tech related. Every time I did go to college, which, I never ended up getting a degree. It was business administration, psychology. I went to Owens for a little bit for something that had to do with plays because I wanted to do, movies at that time and they didn't have anything that was around film. So it was more around plays at that point. So I did that. But I always just found an affinity for, what's new, what's happening, new technology that's coming out, figuring out, especially, at a point where I was the manager at a cell phone store, so a Sprint store for quite some time. So all the new cell phones were coming out and everything like that. That's when the first Samsung Galaxy came out, so I was selling those like hotcakes, and I remember telling people at that time, this is why this phone is better than an iPhone, and being into, all the, details of what the phones came with.
Hard drive
like
space
that,
and
all the
memory and,
the megapixels, everything. Yeah. So, I was more of kind of like a hardware guy when it came to that side of things. Never really built much or anything, but always just was more what I would consider tech adjacent.
Okay, cool. Yeah, dude, we might be related because it's like the same way. Like when I was younger, like wanted to make a movie, wanted to make video games. So, what's your favorite video game all time?
All time? That's gonna be a tough one, man. I like Splinter Cell a lot.
Okay.
Just because I like the whole sneak, aspect I was associated with it. Final Fantasy, the more recent one that came out on PlayStation. I didn't really like the turn-based ones, but there was a really, really good one that came out. So, role-based games, any game where, I can really dive in and actually become the person and everything, those are some of my favorite games, honestly.
Very cool.
Yeah. What about you?
Dude, I had no idea that you were into movies and like that.
Oh, dude, I've kept every movie ticket from all the movies I've seen since like 96. So my first movie ticket that I have, which I keep them all in a plastic box, is Woo with Jada Pinkett. So
I don't even know what that.
You got to go see it, man.
Okay. So my favorite video game is Legend of Zelda, but this is about you.
Yeah.
So like, why though? Like, where did that come from?
That comes from my mom. So my mom was really huge into comic books. I always thought of comic books as kind of like the art of the possible. Anything can exist within comics. All the different type of powers. You have all different kind of communities coming together and everything like that, and all building something. So she had a huge affinity for comic books and scary movies. Like my mom was like, I'm 9 years old watching like The Blob, Slugs,
Chud,
Critters, Toxic Avenger, Pinhead, Hellraiser, Puppet Master, all those kind of movies.
9 years old?
Yeah, I was young watching those movies, but my mom really loved horror movies. She really liked comic books. And again, even with like horror movies, it's just like, people really diving into, the deepest and darkest, fears that people have, so just having that understanding as well, too, just kind of made my brain just work a little bit different. It's just always what's possible. It kind of made me probably a little bit more paranoid than necessary as well, too. But, it just comes with the game.
During high school or whatever it was, I'd stay at my friend's house almost all the time because he gave me a ride to school, right?
Yeah.
And my mom was cool with it. One night we watched Silence of the Lambs, right? And for some reason that night, and I lived probably like half mile away. For some reason that night, my mom wanted me home after watching Silence of the Lambs. I'm like, Mom, I sprinted faster than I'd ever sprinted in my life, right? Because, I don't like scary movies.
Yeah, I'm big on scary movies.
Oh, man. So that's where we differ just a little bit.
Yeah. But I got you, bro. You got no worries.
Well, I mean, there's lots of stuff that we can kind of unpack there, but, the opportunity of with games and playing roles, and like, I think that's a lot of just, and these movies, especially the horror genre, it is that and comic books, it's imagination. You got to forget your imagination, right?
Yeah, use your imagination, and, it's always this concept that came along with it of, being like the hero. What that would be like to experience, kind of like that triumph of being able to save people, save, the princess, the community, or whatever comes along with that. And I think that's something that kind of like made its way into my psyche as well, too.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
So that kind of brings us a little bit to what you're doing now with Empowered AI. Empowered AI, what I know of it, you're doing awesome stuff with young authors, some project management things. Specifically the Young Authors Program, I think that directly parallels to this idea of taking an idea and turning it into cool media.
Yeah, definitely.
So tell me a little bit more about Empowered AI and then the Young Authors Program.
Yeah, so Empowered AI is a nonprofit tech educator, and it's one of the companies that we started in partnership. When I say we, it's my partner, Tom Bush. So we started these companies about 3 years ago. Actual Reality Technologies is a for-profit, and then Empowered AI is our nonprofit tech educator, which really is about community building, building and leveraging, artificial intelligence and augmented intelligence to create really creative and innovative programs that really speak to individuals, not just from, underserved communities, but from all communities. So whether you're an adult or you're a young person, we just build programs, we build partnerships and collaborations that really reach out to individuals and try and bring them into that tech ecosystem, so teaching them, vernacular that's involved with it, teaching them, how they can find their place within it as well, too. And creating creative programs like the AI Infused Project Management Program, which is an adult program that takes the methodology of project management and combines that with an introduction to artificial intelligence and how those can be infused together to pretty much propel any individual, especially someone that's looking to upskill or reskill themselves in the workforce. But also for us to be able to create opportunities for programs for youth, like Young Empowered Authors, which is our opportunity to introduce youth between the ages of 7 and 12 to artificial intelligence for the purpose of them publishing their own books. So when you introduce artificial intelligence to individuals as a tool or a resource, you can remove a lot of the anonymity, the amorphousness, and the fear that are associated with artificial intelligence, and show them that, they can have goals and objectives that can align with what they're looking for, and they can combine the artificial intelligence to help them reach that.
It's interesting, that conversation. What age group is your Young Empowered Authors?
So the initial pilot is like 7 to 12, but
what grades is that? Is that like?
So that's 1st to 6th grade.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what's interesting is I had a conversation with a local principal at an elementary school, right? That's that age group. And I was like, hey, how much are you talking to kids about AI and things like that? And he says, not at all.
Yeah.
But it's an affluent school. They probably have some access to technology at home. I didn't even think about it because I'm like, okay, that's fine. I actually like that for my son because I know he's going to get it from me.
Right.
But for some of the people who are showing up who might not have that opportunity through other means, that age group and that topic feels like it probably resonates fairly well. It's a good time to make that happen for them.
Right? Yeah, and that likely comes from a place, where you talk to, the administration, and they're saying that they're not having those conversations with the kids about artificial intelligence. It's also highly likely that they're not having it even at an administrative level either. So oftentimes when I come into individuals, organizations, whether that's a for-profit, nonprofit, a university, school, or whatever it may be, the first thing that I'll ask them is, do you have an AI policy? And if you don't have an AI policy, that means people don't know whether it's smart or sneaky to use artificial intelligence. They don't know if they're going to be reprimanded or rewarded for using artificial intelligence. So they may hide the fact that something that took them normally 2 hours to do only took them 10 minutes to do. So they're still going to spend that 2 hours, actually acting like they're still doing some work when they could have been doing a lot more, so that conversation needs to happen from a high level, and then people will be more apt to have those conversations with kids and have an understanding of how they're addressing it. But one of the important things that they have to really be cognizant about is that you have to create safe spaces, not just for the students to grow, but also for your staff and your administration to grow as well, too.
And I think in the school, we have our teachers doing a lot.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
And adding more, there's the struggle, right? We talked about earlier about me editing the podcast, some people edit the podcast, right? Sometimes I'm just going to do what I have to do because to show somebody something else that feels like you're taking time away from what I actually need to do, even though the long term, there may be a benefit, right? So as an example, showing teachers how maybe they can use AI to help their day. They're like, I'm already too busy. What are you trying to get me to learn something, right? So how do we, in those type of scenarios, from your perspective, what have been the ways that you've been able to achieve a win and go into a place?
That's a great question. And a lot of times it's being able to show use cases that are applicable to them, So, for instance, when I was first introduced to ChatGPT, it was because my nephew just kept coming to me and he said, you can use ChatGPT to make raps. And I could really care less because I don't rap. You know what I mean? So it actually took for an opportunity for me to actually figure out, it was something I was trying to complete. And I was like, I'm pressed on time. I have a pretty good idea of what it is that I want to say. Let me see if I can use ChatGPT to help me complete that. And that was the use case that was applicable to me. And I think it's being able to show teachers that kind of same efficiency or effectiveness as well, too. So it's just like, I'm sure there was some point where when teachers were first introduced to computers, they were like, this is hefty, it's going to bog me down. It's going to take time away from me being with students. It could potentially be seen as ineffective at that point, but it's you showing them the different use cases in which this is going to make you a lot more efficient. It's going to give you more time. It's going to save on not just paper, but it's going to save on the amount of administrative things that you're going to have to do on the back end as well, too.
I'm almost gonna. This is why I love having these type of conversations, because you spark things, right? And I remember online learning, right? That was another thing that we came into this space and disrupted in the education space. And at some of the places I would work at or have had exposure to, it was like, hey, here's this online tool or online classes. Here, teachers, go ahead and try to make something of this, right?
Right.
I don't know. I would argue the adoption of good best practices for that suffered because it was just of how it was rolled out, right? It wasn't
of course, kind of rolled. Like, I mean, and that's painful because it's just like, I use this analogy a lot. If when all kids turned 16, we gave them keys to Ferraris, there would be a lot of accidents. Kids just burning out, burning rubber up and down the street, just going straight and forth, back and forth, just racing each other and everything like that. But it takes for an individual to take those keys, say, hey, you're going to sit in the passenger side. Let me show you what this Ferrari can really do. That's when you really start seeing like, okay, people start to drive better. There's going to be a lot less accidents, so there has to be a lot of tutelage that goes into, including, artificial intelligence into anything. We can't just say, hey, there's a tool out there, go use it. That doesn't make you effective. It doesn't make me a carpenter because I know how to use a hammer.
Right. Well, I also think that this should be an opportunity where we try to, as the technologists in the room who know the tool, this is our opportunity. Okay, teachers, I'm not going to make a whole bunch of assumptions about your day. Let me see your day. Let me know what you have, see what you got going on, and I can help you because I have a better understanding of you. Don't just take what I've got and
it's not the same dance for everybody. You know, you may have to do the tango with certain teachers, and you may have to go into, you know, other rooms and speak differently.
Teach them how to tie their shoes.
Exactly. And that's fine. You know, oftentimes I've stepped into rooms and, you know, thought I'm here to teach artificial intelligence. And, you know, fortunately or unfortunately, in certain rooms, you know, you may think that's what you're there to teach, but people are like, you know, how do I log into this computer? You know, how do I copy and paste? You know, so sometimes you have to reel it back a little bit and understand where people really are so you can mitigate that space for them first and foremost before you can even advance them to the level that you're referring to, because that is advancement for them, you know, for them to sit down, take their time, you know, sometimes their frustration as well too, and to figure that out, but to have somebody that's right alongside with them to help them figure that out is truly important. And that's one of the biggest gaps that we're missing sometimes is, you know, if we haven't caught up to level 5 and we're asking everybody to do 6 through 10, how can we make sure that we catch everybody up efficiently to level 5 so then we can effectively move forward to 6, 7, 8, 9, and then eventually 10 as well too.
This is the AI in education is a really important place to play because it is impacting so many people.
Yes.
It's impacting all of us, right? Even the people who are like the marginalized communities who are so already far behind when it comes to technology. I'm going to argue the digital divide is now, used to be a freaking canyon. Now it's a freaking solar system, it feels like. So what you're doing, exposing, you know, bringing the kids in, like using the kids to get in the door, but then you're also helping the adults, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Is that fair to say?
It is absolutely fair to say. And it's because of the fact that, you know, you, in order to truly bring everybody along, you know, there's going to be an ecosystem that's going to be created, that we're looking forward to being created, you know, hopefully a tech ecosystem, not just locally, but throughout Ohio. And we want our kids to participate in that. And when you start with the young kids, you know, and giving them the idea that they have a place and what that place could potentially look like for them, and that there's a number of different things that they can do in that role. You know, a lot of times people, you know, when they think about tech jobs, they might see like a Sam Altman, a Steve Jobs, or people like that. And they're like, they want to be them specifically, but there's so many other people that make up that team. You know, there's so many other people that got rich, you know, by being a part of that as well too. And it's the same thing when individuals, you know, say like, hey, I want to be in the NBA. You know, I tell kids all the time, a lot of people get rings. It's not just the players that are on the floor. You know what I mean? People that are on the athletic team, you know, the coaches. There's a plethora, you know, there's probably close to like 100 rings that are given away, you know, to that championship team, and you can be a part of that, you know. So when kids close their eyes and they're like, you know, I picture myself in the NBA, there's a plethora of different jobs that you can have in the NBA. You know,
there's more jobs off the court.
There's a lot more jobs off the court than there are on the court. But if we don't take the time to identify what that looks like, you know, if my kids only grow up that thinking that the only way they can be a part of the Detroit Pistons is to actually play for the Pistons, you know, and you might not have the height for that. You might not have the skill set for that, but you may have the brain for that. You know, you may have a capacity that you are not aware of, you know, and it's up to us, you know, especially individuals that have gone through a lot of the weeds and everything to figure out, you know, what that looks like or potentially what it doesn't look like as well too, to put those options in front of kids.
So you open the door. I'm going to have to go walk through it. Pistons. I grew up a Pistons fan.
Me too.
Okay. I was a fan when Kelly Tripucka and Isaiah Thomas and Vinnie Johnson ran around with those short shorts. Oh, a different time, right?
Yeah, definitely.
I think I saw a game of Kobo, right? A Bad Boys era. The whole rivalry with the what was it? It was first the Celtics, then the Lakers, then eventually the Bulls. You know, The Last Dance, the Bad Boys documentary.
Yeah, all of it.
Ben Wallace, right, with the Chauncey Billups, with phase 2 of the Bad Boys.
Definitely.
And now the resurgence here. I'm pretty excited, but my problem is I'm gonna have to borrow your Bally's account or whatever it is because I can't even watch any of these games right now with their, all this stuff's divided in media.
Right. Yeah.
Well, how did you become a Pistons fan?
So I was a huge fan of Grant Hill initially.
Let's go.
So
Wait, the maroon and teal era?
yeah, yes, that, and I actually had one of those jerseys as well too. So it was interesting though. I was a huge fan of Grant Hill, and my dad liked the Bulls a lot. And then somehow, and I don't even think I had picked a team at that point. My dad bought me a Grant Hill jersey, or excuse me, not the jersey, but he bought me a Grant Hill poster. And I was like, I guess I'm a Pistons fan at this point, and from that point, literally from that day on, I was like, I'm a Pistons fan. If he had bought me a Jordan poster, maybe I would have been a Bulls fan. But, I became a Pistons fan from that day. And, it just continued, from Grant Hill to, Jerry Stackhouse, to Chauncey, Rip,
Lindsey Hunter,
everybody, Mike James, all those guys, Rasheed Wallace, Ben Wallace, so that was really my team, Tayshaun Prince and everything, that was my team,
And you made a whole lot of money off one block.
Oh, yeah. And why not? You know what I mean? Because it was an amazing block, so, and I remember that, they didn't think we were going to beat the Lakers. I remember being like one of the only people at that point that was just like, no, we got it, and we did, but it's just kind of like that grit that I really appreciated about that team.
And I think to go back to, I don't know what year that was, but that was
2001.
2001, that era of the Pistons. Yep. And then you had the Lakers, and, they talk about all these super teams, everything else, but wasn't that Kobe, Shaquille, wasn't Karl Malone?
Yeah, it was Kobe, Shaq, Karl Malone. It might have been 03, 04 that this happened. But yeah, that was supposed to be like a super team. And it was a super team, honestly. They were killing people, they just didn't have enough for us at that time.
We just had a super team.
Yeah, we had a better team, I remember all the time I'm talking about Slavo Medvedenko, and how he had to guard Rasheed Wallace and how it wasn't going to happen, so we made it happen. I was happy.
You know what I learned during that era?
What's that?
Ball don't lie.
Ball don't lie, man. Ball don't lie. Rasheed Wallace, number one.
Oh, awesome. All right. Let's did we say everything you want to say about empowered authors? I mean, you can stick there for a little bit or something.
Yeah. So, Young Empowered Authors, I think, is an amazing opportunity for kids to not only embrace their literacy, from the standpoint of, they're creating books, they're ideating, they're thinking of themselves as authors. We also push the idea of them being entrepreneurs, and to be able to literally create residual money or a way to, have residual money for the rest of their lives, So
you're publishing those on Amazon, Kindle. And
yep. So we actually work with the parents to ensure that the books are published on Amazon KDP. And we have created, Actual Reality Technologies actually created a product called Story Builder Studio, that allows us the opportunity to really go in there and make consistent characters using the AI prompts to create the images of these characters, so the kids know even before their books are started consistently, this is what your characters are going to look like. So we're going to have probably more than 100 kids, maybe close to 150 kids go through this first quarter in that program, and we're going to celebrate them at a publisher's party that's going to be held probably around March 21st. Saturday, March 21st is the day that we're targeting for that. And that's going to be a really good opportunity where the kids are going to be able to sell their books at the publisher's party. So they'll be selling them there at $10 a piece. So, definitely want the city to come out, support these kids, celebrate them for what they've accomplished. It will be a red carpet style event. We'll have paparazzi taking the pictures for the kids as they go down the red carpet. We just really want to celebrate the kids for what they've accomplished, So this quarter we'll be working with, and we have worked with Hawkins, LP, Stewart, the Art Tatum Zone. We'll be working with YMCA, the Wayman Palmer specifically, the Shone Rock Boys and Girls Club, the Frederick Douglass Center, Escuela, which is a bilingual TPS school as well too, and the University of Toledo Athletics Department will also be another faction that'll be going through the Young Empower Authors program as well too.
Awesome, dude. And thank you. Thank you for that, because I mean, as an educator and somebody with kids, I know what helping kids find a thing and empowering them, to borrow the phrase or borrow the word, what you're doing is super valuable.
I appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Absolutely.
How do people stay in touch with or find out more and stay in touch with you, connect with you on Empowered AI?
So for Empowered AI, you can go to empoweredai.org. That's our website. You can also reach out to me directly at LeSean at empoweredai.org. And of course, I'll spell LeSean for you, LeSean at empoweredai.org. Or you can reach out to us at our general inbox, which is info@empoweredai.org. So a few different ways you can reach out to us, and we're on all social medias, most often on LinkedIn though. So
I have no idea what LinkedIn is.
I know, right? Yeah, that's not true.
Speaking of LinkedIn, one of the things that I learned about you checking out your LinkedIn profile and staying connected is you are resparking the African American Chamber of Commerce here in Toledo.
That is correct. That is correct. So the Toledo African American Chamber of Commerce, the previous president, his name was Roy Hodge. Roy unfortunately passed away. I believe it was in 2024. So I reached out to a number of the individuals that were in leadership at that time and just said, what are we going to do? Definitely don't want the chamber to, not be able to continue to exist, so what can we do to reinvigorate and spark that? So we've been having meetings for quite some time to, ensure that we had all of our policies, the benefits, the board and the officers in place. And at this point, we're finally at the point where we can open up the chamber to members, so we've started to do that. We've been doing a lot of posting on social media. We'll also be holding a town hall at Toll House on February 26th. That's a Thursday. We'll invite individuals from the community to come in just to ask questions of the chamber, get a better understanding of why the chamber exists, why we want to reinvigorate the chamber. Question us about benefits, but just to get a general understanding about what the chamber is and why we're here.
So without giving away the whole thing, what is the chamber and why is it here?
Yeah, so the Toledo African American Chamber is an economic development entity that exists here locally to ensure that we're empowering and making sure to advocate for minority-owned businesses. So whether you're an African American, you're a woman, someone that is disabled, someone from the LGBTQIA community, or even someone that is in the military, we want to make sure that we're advocating for them, that we are opening as many doors as we can for them, and that we're alleviating a lot of the stress that comes with being or becoming an entrepreneur.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one of the reasons, or one of the main missions that we are going to have and be out in the community, making sure that we're doing everything that we can to do.
So I'm going to ask the question.
Yep.
We have a Toledo Regional Chamber of Commerce.
Mm-hmm.
What's the differentiator with the African American Chamber of Commerce? Is it just that it's serving those other populations?
I don't think it's about just serving the other populations. I think it's about creating a connectivity that sometimes other chambers may not be able to accomplish. And it's not for lack of trying.
Mm-hmm.
All of the chambers that we have locally do really, really good things in the community, but sometimes there's a gap that needs to be mitigated. Okay. And sometimes you just need partners that are from those communities to help you mitigate those gaps. Mm-hmm. And that's what we want to do, is to be here as a partner and as an additive to the community, to the chambers that currently exist, and to our members as well too. So we will have collective, or collaborative, I should say, agreements with some of the local chambers as well too. So some of the benefits that you'll be able to receive as a part of being a part of our chamber will be reciprocated by the fact that it'll be kind of like a dual membership type of agreement as well too.
Yeah, because then there's a Latino chamber.
Unfortunately, it is, I believe, at least on pause at this point. Okay. So there was a Hispanic chamber here locally.
Okay.
Right now, I do think that is currently on pause. So again, that's a chamber that had a lot of members, that what happens to those members? Did they have some benefits that unfortunately now they're not going to be able to receive? How do we mitigate that? How do we make sure that those individuals are still feeling the support that is necessary for them to receive? And those are gaps that we want to ensure that we're helping to mitigate.
Okay. How do people find out more?
So they can visit us at toledoaac.org. They can also email us directly at info@toledoaac.org. Or you can also come to the town hall, of course, which is going to be held at Toll House on February 26th. And that'll be probably from like 5:30 until 8. It'll be free of charge. We'll have drinks, appetizers there for individuals as well too, and a lot of information on the chamber.
LeSean loves handing out drink tickets.
Yeah, I do everything I can. If drinks or food brings people out, drinks and food is what we'll have.
Yeah, especially after hours. It's hard, especially in February, right?
Absolutely.
People come out of the door. So I want to switch gears completely if you're cool with that.
Absolutely.
You are born and raised in Toledo, I believe?
Yes, born and raised.
Born and raised. Have you left for a long period of time?
No.
Okay. So you're Toledo.
Yeah.
You know what's up with Toledo, right? From a certain perspective.
Absolutely.
There is a lot of conversation around what Toledo needs to grow, become, the cracks in the floor, the paint we need to, whatever it is, right? There's ideas about what Toledo should be for everybody.
Absolutely.
I'm curious on hearing your perspective on where we are, a little bit of where we've been, because I think history is important. But then also, like, if LeSean, if I could say, LeSean, here's the power to make this happen. What do you make happen in Toledo? A big question. You can ramble.
Well, I mean, the first thing I think we need to realize is that all the things that people are saying Toledo needs, it's true. Toledo needs every single thing that, people are saying that Toledo needs, But Toledo also needs individuals that are willing to stand in that gap and in that space, without anger, without judgment, that are willing to put in the work. Toledo also needs individuals that are willing to step in and say, I want to be the change that I want to see. Without that, we're never going to accomplish kind of those audacious goals and dreams that we have as a city, because we're just going to complain, and with complaining, work doesn't get done. One of the things that I found in leadership quite often is that, a lot of times people would bring their concerns to me or, just complaints to me. And then when I would give them answers, which a lot of times attributed to them having to do work, that's not what they wanted to hear. They wanted to have a place to vent. And if you just want to vent, that's fine as well, too, because fortunately, we need people that will vent. We need people that if there's 9 people at the table, they agree on somebody or on something, we need one person that's going to say, I don't agree. And we need to understand why they don't agree, because those could potentially be barriers that we can mitigate now before encountering those situations that are going to bring us down. Or it just might be a different mindset or a diversity that maybe we just had not thought about, So those are things that are important at the table. So Toledo needs all of that, and Toledo needs sometimes just to be a little bit more patient with itself, with understanding that there are people that are doing the best that they can, to make things happen. And they need your help, and they need a little bit of grace as well, too, and that just comes with support. And sometimes support doesn't always have to mean that you showed up at an event. Sometimes that just means that you reshared it with your community and with your network to help get the word out. You not showing up or you sharing it may have brought 10 people to the event and you just came as one person, So there's a lot more impact that we can do as a community. And I think it's also for us to have the understanding that collectively we can punch a lot harder than we can alone. So even though we do a lot of comparisons to other bigger cities that are close to us, the Cleveland, Cincinnati, Columbus, Detroit, things of that sort, they might be able to accomplish the same thing that they might be able to accomplish with one company that it might take 3 companies here for us to be. It might take 5, it might take 10, but it doesn't mean that it's not possible. It just means that we need to identify opportunities and empower those individuals that are really looking to make change in the city. To try and not make things hard on them, let's grease the wheel for them and allow them the ability to bring other people along with them as well, too. So, I know there's a lot of different things that we can kind of key in on, and be a lot more specific about as well. And, definitely open to that, too.
Well, so you and I think, both have a passion for the people who, when some folks would say, well, they need to pull themselves up by their bootstraps. Some of these people don't have boots.
Yeah, what bootstraps? Yeah.
So I'm thinking, like for me, right, like a lot of from my position as an educator and somebody who kind of pays attention to things from a lot of and tries to look at things from as many perspectives as I can. I have anecdotal evidence that and it's going to be like saying water's wet. Families that are financially stable, families with two parents, families with maybe one parent that stays at home, those kids tend to do better.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Okay. That's cool. We have a lot of families in a lot of different groups that don't have that, right?
Absolutely.
How do we best support those groups of, how do we give boots to those kids? Or help those kids get boots?
I think one of the things that we have to do is just be open to listening. I found that a lot of times the devices, the policies, the initiatives that have been set up to help people were not set up by people that needed help.
So I think I get it, but say it one more time.
Absolutely. So a lot of times initiatives that are set up to help people were not set up by people that needed help.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll give you an example. Let's say, for instance, and this actually happened to me at, one of the companies that I work for, but I'm not going to name them because I don't think inherently people do this with any malice.
Mm-hmm.
But I worked for a company and they had a program that if you couldn't pay your bills, it was kind of like a relief fund. You could apply for the relief fund. They would give you up to $1,500 to pay your bills, things of that sort. And I had an employee that needed to apply for that relief fund. So she submits her application. She's behind on her rent. When they receive the application from me, they tell me that they only meet once a month and that date is already passed. So if you guys only meet once a month and that date is already passed and the person is applying for relief because of rent, that means now the next month when you guys do convene again, they need 2 months of rent to pay. And you are only allocating 1 month basically for them to be able to pay their rent. So you're already inherently putting them behind the ball. They are going to be twice as in the deficit as they were before.
Mm-hmm.
So they meet, they convene, and they have the conversation about this applicant, and it comes back that she's denied. And she's denied because of the fact that the bills that she submitted were not in her name. And the bills were not in her name because she's married. So the bills are in her husband's name. And how many people that work in factories, work in healthcare, work in any facility environment or arena, are in that exact same scenario where the bills might be in their spouse's name.
Mm-hmm.
Does that mean that they don't deserve help? Clearly, if their spouse or collectively in their house, they had enough to take care of it, they wouldn't be applying. They wouldn't need the relief in this situation.
Mm-hmm.
But now, because of the fact that she's married, which should be a good thing, that's a hindrance to her receiving relief. So again, and that comes from a place for if a company just says, hey, we're just going to cordon away a specific amount of money for individuals that need help. And it's even a more implicit problem now that I think about it. So let's say that same company sets up a relief fund and they put $100,000 into that relief fund. And throughout the year, for whatever reason, only $15,000 of that relief fund is used. Now, from their 3,000 level view of that, from their aerial view of that, they're like, okay, well, that means $85,000 of what we put there, that resource didn't need to get allocated anywhere. That means people don't need those funds. But from the view where you're actually like working with people that need that money, you have the understanding that the only reason that money wasn't allocated out more is because of the fact that there were barriers for people to receive that money. So it kind of just creates this dual-edged sword, where people don't have that understanding. But if they had that conversation initially with their staff or workforce to say, hey, these are funds that we're going to allocate, what are ways or what are some parameters maybe that we can set around this funding in order to ensure that individuals that need it are able to receive it. And it's not just companies where that happens. There's city government, of course, where that happens as well, too. Where you think maybe small business owners, we've set this money aside for small business owners. It may be a knowledge gap for small business owners to even be aware that that money has been set aside for them, on top of the fact that they may have certain barriers that they have to get through in order to receive that money as well, too. So it's really tough because especially in this entrepreneurial ecosystem where not a lot of huge companies are like risk averse, or you have people that are really spinning their wheels as an entrepreneur. trying to figure out how to figure things out.
Mm-hmm.
If we don't set up initiatives that really make things easy for people, a lot of those ideas, which could be money making, truly life transformational for individuals or even for communities, that's going to go away. Because why would I spend so much time trying to make something happen that's a possibility when I absolutely have to pay my rent?
Mm-hmm.
So I got to spend my time doing this 9 to 5 and everything like that. Whereas where I'm trying to be an entrepreneur, and even if it's good for the community, it seems it's super hard and I'm burned out.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to do something about that ecosystem as well, too, because not everybody is willing to deal with the brain drain that's associated with that burnout that entrepreneurs have to deal with.
There's so much to unpack there, right? Because I did a game design academy,
Mm-hmm.
and we were looking for money from local government organization that was helping, and it was lack of a better way to say it. Some groups with like the check mark against them, whatever that check mark is. There's multiple things, whether you live in a certain space, whether the first year of college, whatever it might be, right? And those to try to get funding for one of those students to take that class, it was like 8 checkpoints.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, I'm just trying to help somebody. You're making it so hard for me to help the people who need it most. And I can understand and respect their side. Well, it's the government money, it's this pot of money, and we want to make sure it's used wisely.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm like, lead with help first.
Oh yeah, it should be that way, and it's unfortunate that it is that way. And a lot of times, even for myself, I am not a person that is able to like mark all those check marks. You know what I mean? Most often, the rooms that I'm in, I probably should not be in those rooms if it was like check marks, or requisite that were required. And most oftentimes, people told me it was certain requirements that had, that I needed in order to be in those rooms. But I'm still in those same rooms. I'm still being effective in those rooms. So when you think about it, even from that standpoint, as an individual that basically had to fight to get there, you know what I mean? And then once you're there, you're just trying to make space for more people as well, too.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's that hard for me to fit in and I had to check all those boxes, or, inherently I was supposed to have checked all those boxes, how much easier is it going to be for somebody else who wants to be there in that position as well? It's probably going to be hard, and we have to figure that out. It shouldn't be so lock and key. It shouldn't be such of a problem to figure out how to make more seats at the table for people, because we really have to reevaluate, even when it comes to, the money, or when it comes to different roles and positions in the workforce. Does it really require a degree, or does it require somebody to give you the understanding of what it looks like to do in this particular role for this particular company? A lot of times that doesn't require a degree. It was interesting when I was in healthcare. I had somebody tell me, and I had 2 practices that I managed at the exact same time. And somebody told me that if I had a degree, I would be paid more. And I was like, well, what if my degree was in fine arts? And they're like, yeah, that would apply. But what does that have to do with this role? It has absolutely nothing to do with the role, So a lot of times I think we may also need to reevaluate what it looks like to have a seat at that table, because I think we maybe set too many parameters and too many barriers up.
Especially inside of any organization that's existed for a while, right?
Mm-hmm.
What happens is it's got a foundation, and then another layer comes in, and sometimes people start doing stuff, and companies start doing stuff, or organizations start doing stuff. Well, that's the way we've always done it. That's how it works, and they don't necessarily think or start to even rethink, because that's not part of their day-to-day, right? Mm-hmm. What I'm connecting the dots here was the opportunity that's being afforded to us right now with AI coming in.
Mm-hmm.
This is that point where we should really, as a whole, be reevaluating all of our systems. Maybe AI is going to come in and have an impact or not, but like, we should at least have that understanding of what we are and how we do things, so that we could potentially weave AI into helping us solve some of these problems, right?
Absolutely. It's a creative renaissance right now with artificial intelligence, and it's a way to mitigate gaps for individuals from all communities kind of collectively at the same time, because we're all starting off at this inception point. Now, some individuals may have taken a couple more steps forward than others, but we are all at the beginning of that huge bell learning curve that people refer to. Like, we aren't at the precipice of it. We are not on the come down of it. We are literally at the beginning of it. We haven't even really seen the rise and uptick of what this could potentially, or where it could potentially take us. And I think that's an opportunity for us all to reevaluate that, to say, if we're all going to be learning from a general basis of zero, we can learn collectively, we can learn together, and we can collaborate in ways that have never been seen. We can solve for things that we never in the past were able to solve for, because now there's an additive with artificial intelligence that we can include on every single issue, on every single problem that we've ever thought of, and from every single community standpoint and lens at the exact same time. So I think it's really important to empower individuals from all communities, whether you're young, you're old, you're on the left side, right side. It shouldn't be about that at this point. It's about community advancement. And the only way we get community advancement is if we all don't make it, nobody makes it. It's the idea of, like I said, I'm a movies guy. So from Semi-Pro, one of the things that he yelled on Semi-Pro, Jackie Moon yelled at everybody on the bus. He said, ELE, everybody love everybody. You know what I mean? Like, we got to get away from the notion of, the things that keep us separate, because those things that keep us separate can also bring us together if we are just a little bit more cognizant of where our ignorance lies. And that ignorance is not always a bad thing, as long as we're willing to collectively come to the table and have collaborative conversations that get us beyond a point of ignorance.
Bro, the freaking Semi-Pro reference is my favorite podcast ever, man.
My movie, man.
Oh, it's great. The Flint Tropics.
Yeah, man.
I
need that jersey.
Love me sexy.
Love me sexy, man. That guy is crazy.
Oh, I love him.
He's one of my favorite actors, though, man. Comedic actors.
Will Ferrell, just the fact that he can run around in nut hugging tights and Elf and just deliver straight lines is like, that's gold, man.
The fact that he's pretty much himself in every single movie.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He's always himself, and I love that. But definitely one of my favorite comedic actors for sure.
All right. Anything else before I ask the question I ask all the folks from Toledo? Anything else you want to cover?
I want to reevaluate. I want for all of us to reevaluate collectively, like, what we can accomplish, and not just on our own, but let's have some collaborative conversations that we would not normally have. Let's come together in spaces that we don't normally visit. Let's get beyond the fear of certain questions. There's a lot of evolution, that comes along with that. And that's truly important, and I think right now we're at a time where there's a lot of things that can keep us apart, but we know what's right. We know what's wrong. We know what's good for our city, and we can make those things happen, and I think it's beyond time for us to start thinking about what kind of actions we can take, as individuals, but also, again, collectively, that can help us mitigate knowledge gaps, can help us mitigate financial gaps, and gaps where we can actually include a bit of innovation to advance our city as well, too. We can really shoot for the stars. I know a lot of times, we refer to ourselves as the mud city. We get it out the mud and everything like that. And while that's amazing, I think there's another idea that we can have as well, too. And whatever mantra that you want to seek, whether it's we want to turn Toledo into the AI capital of the Midwest, we want to be the most, attractive city for, tech talent, or whatever it is that we want to be, we can make those things happen, and it's just about having those conversations. So if there's anybody that wants to have those conversations, feel free to reach out to me, reach out to Mike. There are a lot of people that are active right now in our community that are just looking for additional people that want to be additives to making something beautiful for our city, creating generational wealth, and creating a place that our kids can be proud of and don't want to grow up and just immediately leave. I was one of those kids. I was one of those people that, when I'm 18, I'm going to go. And I'm not going to lie, every day I think about what it would be like to leave. But I also, on the other side, think about what it would be like to invest, what it would be like to really dig my feet into the dirt and say, I'm going to make it happen here, not just for myself, but so people that come behind me don't have to have the exact same stressors, don't have to have the same deficiencies, don't have to have the same issues. what can we do to mitigate those gaps? You know, let's bridge the gap. So I think that's one of the things that I just kind of wanted to close out with.
Dang, dude. Now you want to ask my question.
No, please.
That's not a question. All right.
Yeah,
I ask this everywhere from Toledo.
for sure.
You've got somebody coming into town who's never been here before.
Mm-hmm.
You got one day with them, and it's the perfectest of perfect days, right?
Mm-hmm.
Breakfast, lunch, dinner, and what do you do in between? How do you show off Toledo, man?
How do I show off Toledo with breakfast?
And you lose points if you say the zoo or the museum, because everybody says the zoo and the museum.
All right. So
I'm kidding. You can.
No. It's good. It's good. So I'm gonna take them to breakfast. We're gonna go downtown to Fakash's. You know, so we're gonna start downtown at Fakash's just simply based on the fact that, you know, it's in the middle of downtown. You know, if it's nice outside, we can walk downtown. We can go see the water and everything like that. I can show you a bit of some of the rejuvenation that's going on downtown and everything like that. We're going to dip out for lunch. We're going to head over to Toll House. You know, we're going to really see some of the active things that are going on over there. You know, we might stay downtown, go visit over at the Tech Loft, visit at the Innovation Post, just to show that we have some really innovative and beautiful spaces here as well, too. And then for dinner, I might say, depending on how, I don't want to say like bougie or anything, but, you know, we could close out maybe at like Jay Alexander's, you know, because Jay's is a really nice spot, good food. But if you like some soul food or something like that, we could do like some Jamai's, you know, that's some real good Jamai's. That's right down the street on LaGrange, man. So
Okay.
yeah, Jamai's, where's that that's Josephine's. Yeah. So we can go to Josephine's, which is right down the street on LaGrange. Get some real home cooking, and let's close it out at the casino, man.
Let's go.
Let's see how lucky you are. Let me see if we could go ahead and win something. You know what I mean? With a nice closeout at the casino or something like that, man.
What do you play?
I'm a poker guy myself. You know,
Bro, we are like,
yeah.
we might be twins.
Well, that.
So much.
Nah, man.
That's the
So,
point, Dre.
let's do poker, you know, and if we spending somebody else's money, let's do blackjack.
I love it.
We can do that, man. But I think that's a good way to just kind of like show, you know, some of the things that are going on in Toledo, you know, take them, you know, throughout the city a little bit. And with me, we driving through the city. I'm taking you. When I say downtown, I just don't mean the business part of downtown. I mean, we going all through Cherry Street. We going back in LaGrange. We going all through. You know what I mean? We gonna go over where I grew at. You know, over up on Waite. I'll take you out on Fallen Leaf over there by Rogers and everything like that. Like I really want to show people the city. You know, because a lot of times when people think about the development, I also want them to think about the places that we still have yet to develop.
Well, and I think too, if you're going to build a foundation somewhere, you want to understand where you're building that foundation, right?
Yeah. There's a tale of two cities with every city.
Yeah.
You know, and that's one of the things that I never want to be shy about is embracing what that tale of two cities looks like for Toledo. You know, so even when we talk about downtown, I hear a lot of people talk about the rejuvenation downtown, but as soon as you cross Cherry Street, it looks the same way as it did when I was a kid. And that's a problem, you know, because in 2040, I believe the goal is to have 300,000 more people in the city of Toledo. That's like one of the city's goals, you know. But the only way you can really do stuff like that is for people to feel like they can come to an active, engaged, and safe downtown. And if it's not safe for the residents that are currently here, if it's not active and engaged for the residents that are currently here, it's going to have a hard time attracting people to be in that area, you know. So when you build for the communities that have issues, it helps you be able to not only resonate and have rapport with those communities, but also much more easily be able to build for communities that you're going to bring in, because who knows what part of the gamut, you know, those individuals that we bring in are going to fall into. And we have to build initiatives, policies, places for those people to be able to go and feel safe, welcome, and to feel supported.
You should run for mayor.
Man, I am running for mayor. We're going to make it happen.
You heard it here first.
Yes.
Well, maybe not first, but you heard.
Nah, this is the first time I said it on a podcast.
Oh, for real?
Yeah, absolutely, man.
I got my sword, brother. I appreciate you.
Appreciate you, man.
All right, everybody. This has been LeSean Shaw, Vice President of Empowered AI, President, correct, of the Toledo
African American Chamber, Chief Operating Officer, Actual Reality Technologies.
Your freaking LinkedIn's a scroll, bro. You're doing it all. I appreciate you. I appreciate your love and passion for the community. And we got the handshake down finally. It took me a minute, but I got there.
Yeah, man.
All right. Be good to each other, folks. We'll make it happen.
Stay legendary.